All right, what up, what up, what up? Peace and blessings, everyone. It's your brother and friend, Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrillion Engineer, coming back with another edition of the STEM Files. On tonight's episode, we have the first civilian CSI in St. Kitts, our brother, Ciaran Phillip. Tune in for more of this dynamic episode after this, family. Awesome. Again, welcome back, family, to another edition of the STEM Files, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Again, I am your humble co-host, Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrillion Engineer. I am a civilian mechanical engineer focusing on naval ship fluid systems with a background in material science and engineering. I am typically joined by my illustrious co-host, Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac, a biomedical research scientist with a background in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. But like always, family, I want to let you all know that, again, this is the STEM Files every Thursday and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live on the STEM Files on Facebook, on YouTube at the STEM Files, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at the STEM Files for all updates. And as always, family, the show is not about us. I could talk for days. The show is about who we bring on. And without further ado, I want to present to some and introduce to others my bro, my friend, the dude always giving vibrant energy and great energy, Ciaran Phillip. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. Doing well.
Doing good. Welcome again. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation, coming, spreading the love and just, taking this walk with us, bro. So, as we get started, we just want to have you just generally introduce yourself, give a little bit of background, then we're going to get into some questions, all right?
Nice. So I'm Ciaran Phillip. I'm from a small little country called St. Kitts and Nevis, Twin Island nation in the Caribbean. And, I've always been interested in science from a very, very young age. So I was really fortunate to be able to have good support at home to pursue this career. So what I really enjoy doing is using science to answer complex questions. So, I help organizational leaders answer complex questions around justice, efficiency, and profitability, using scientific methods. And that's important to me because once you have accurate and reliable information from scientific methods, you can make better decisions. So that's what I really enjoy doing. I spent a lot of time in school learning chemistry and forensic science. I did my bachelor's
Right.
degree in chemistry at the University of the Virgin Islands and a
Yes, sir.
master's in forensic science at Virginia Commonwealth University. And then after that, I spent 6 years working in St. Kitts, where I was the first civilian hired to work in the forensic
Yes,
department.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, bro. You said something, and it's taking me back to our first conversation we had,
Right.
before even inviting you, when you started talking about your background and you said something key. You said, when you have basically the correct information or correct scientific information, you can make the best decisions, especially in this COVID, environment, a lot of information, misinformation, pseudoscience, and just in general with the social media microwave society, there's a lot of information floating around. So,
Right.
talk to us about the importance of vetting information of any, arena that comes to us, particularly in the scientific realm, to kind of help us stay ahead of the curve with things, just stay abreast of our surroundings.
Right. So as a scientist, we're all about looking for the accurate and reliable information, and we're all about trying to answer really tough questions. I had a good experience in a research lab when I was at grad school, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out if I could identify a burnt match, like a match that was used to light a fire, if I could identify that match as coming from a particular type of brand, whether that be like Diamond or Redbird, or was it the type of match that was used, like safety matches or waterproof matches or strike anywhere matches. And the whole point of being a scientist and doing research is that we get to look for the right information. So scientists are mostly doing that, but how it is right now in society is that there's a lot of non-scientists, a lot of non-technical people that need to make very technical decisions. decisions around your health, around your wellness, around your family's health, around the economy. So you guys need scientists really to help you, you know, deliver that information, because everybody
Right.
doesn't need to be a researcher. Research is
Hmm.
a really tough job. I had a really hard experience in that project that I was doing. Successful in the end, but might not be something very useful, going down the line. So,
Right.
as a scientist and a non-scientist, well, let me say, as a scientist, I know research is hard. I know vetting information is very difficult. So I could imagine for non-scientists, how easy it is to get overwhelmed, or how easy it is to just run with what is most accessible. It's very important though to understand that all our sources have bias, all our
Right.
sources have a slant. You know,
Absolutely.
even the most technical source, and anybody can be wrong.
Right.
So
Right.
it's really tough, but
Hmm.
usually you look at the reputation of your source. You also look at you know um, who's feeding them, who's helping them do their work, who's financing them, and what are the real interests at heart. So I
Right.
mean, it's not an easy job, but vetting sources is the best thing you can do as a non-scientist. And I mean, the easy way I would say to go about vetting sources is to look and see, like, are multiple people saying similar things. You want to
Right.
look at least two sources. You want
Yes,
to
sir.
make sure that if you see something on CNN, are you seeing that on the Associated Press as well? Are you seeing it on Al Jazeera? You know,
Right.
I mean, you got to try and look at least two sources.
Absolutely. You brought up something so key. You talked about every source has bias. When people talk about, oh, that's a biased source, it always throws me because, you know, there when you present information, typically you're striving to prove a point. So in
Of
that
course,
there's bias, right?
right.
My thing is when I present information, if I'm typically for or against something, even if you're trying to just, present general information, your desire is to get someone to think in a certain way or expose them to this in this particular way. So there's
Hmm.
inherent bias and everything. I think that's when you talk about comparing sources
Of
because,
course,
I could sit here and talk to you about, how water is good for you. Someone could also say water is bad for you and then try to give you an article with a certain slant as to why, right?
indeed.
But when you compare certain things and then you line up the truths of both, then you can make your own informed decision. So thank you
Hmm.
so much for bringing that up. Talk to us a little about forensic science and its relationship to being a CSI. What is forensic science? What are its different pathways, and how does the forensic scientist or is the forensic scientist able to then apply those base sciences to crime scene investigation?
Nice, nice. That's a great question, man. So, forensic science, in the easy sense, is scientific methods applied to legal proceedings. It's not always criminal legal proceedings, it could be civil as well. But in the very scientific sense, we actually have NIST, the National Institutes of Standard and Technology. They've actually been working on making standards for forensic science, or the forensic sciences. I'm going to get back to that in a bit. So the forensic sciences, as NIST has now identified them as standardized, is the study of traces. So traces now would be things that are left behind unintentionally or sometimes intentionally during certain activities. Could be
Right,
criminal activities. It could just be everyday normal activities. So everyday normal activity, I sit down on my couch. I'm wearing clothes. I sit down on my couch today wearing gray sweatpants. I leave. I'm gonna leave traces of gray fibers
right,
on my couch,
right,
or traces of the fibers from my couch gonna be on my sweatpants. Criminal activity wise, me and a guy get in a fight. You know, exchange of punches. There's going to be traces of his skin cells or possibly blood on my body,
right,
traces of my
right,
blood on his body. Forensic
right,
science now, or the forensic sciences, they look at those traces, collect those traces, try to properly analyze them and interpret it in order to identify victims or connections, really, connect victims and suspects together, or connect people and places together. So that's the
Mm.
forensic sciences as a definition. Now, why I say forensic sciences, now going into the pathways of forensic science. So forensic science, big term, science applied to the law. It's actually splintered into several different disciplines.
Right.
The major one that people would know about is biology or DNA analysis. Is
Mm-hmm.
using body fluids. Well, probably shouldn't say DNA. Should probably say molecular biology, molecular biology. Using molecular
Mm-hmm.
biology to identify different body fluids or identify people. Mostly through DNA. Could also be used in wildlife forensics. Whenever
Mm.
people are doing hunting out of season, there's
Right.
always need for somebody to say, well, is that a dog's blood or is that a deer's blood? Those kind of things.
Right.
So that's the big one that people would know. People might be aware of multimedia or IT forensics or digital
Mm.
forensics. That's using
Mm.
things like um, encrypted messages, trying to see
Right.
if you could bring back encryptions or break encryptions, or people who would do things like send messages and delete them, or you look at metadata, how long was this call being placed and to which number, those kind of things. So there's a lot of different areas. I mean, my particular discipline falls under chemistry and it falls under
Right.
materials. So I'm into trace evidence, which is the identification of all materials that are not drugs and not
Right.
biological. So that's what I like to.
Absolutely.
That's what I train to do in school. Now let's talk about crime scene investigation. Lastly, so
Right.
crime scene investigation now is strictly about being able to identify traces at locations where you could find evidence of criminal activity. That's what
Right.
CSI is. So you're looking to identify these traces at locations where there's possible evidence of criminal activity. So you do the documentation, identification, collection, and in some cases, the analysis of evidence. So that's what CSI is doing.
Mm.
It's very scientific because you need to be
Yes,
able to
sir.
take science that we use in the lab, such as, one of the things I like talking about is the chemical properties of sweat, because there's always sweat on people's hands. Well, not always, let me
Right.
not say that, but there may be sweat on people's hands. And when they
Right.
touch different surfaces, they actually leave sweat behind in the pattern of their fingerprints. So we exploit the chemical properties of sweat using various light sources you know, to highlight these patterns of fingerprints on various materials.
Awesome. Yes, sir. So that, thank you so much for that. So I like how you just took it part by part by part. You know, family, if y'all haven't learned anything yet, I know I've learned a lot already. Make sure you're dropping a like, right? You're sharing this content. You're
Yeah,
dropping
man, respect.
questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to know in the comments. I will be asking it. You know, one thing I wanted to offer as well, you know, in my experience, you know, being a civilian engineer for the Navy, you know, I started off in materials science and engineering. And one of the things that I was in and people can apply forensic science to is metallurgy or failure analysis. You know,
Exactly.
so when you get different metallographic samples from the different ships throughout the fleet or whatever that have failed, right? We know components fail, nothing's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So putting things under the microscope, looking at trace elements for composites or
Right.
deposits of, verdigris or, corrosion, things like that. You can use the same mentality, the same core science or baseline disciplines present in forensic science to be able to understand failure modes for, different metallographic samples and then create a report. Hey, this is what happened. This is why. You may want to change the material composition. You may want to, change the maintenance and the periodicity in terms of how often you check this and make sure it stays dry. Make sure, things like that. So that's
Exactly.
another way you could definitely use, forensic science.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because a
Yes,
big part of
yes, go ahead.
forensic science really is that once you have results, like it might not always be like, I've identified this individual who was involved in the fight, but, once you
Mm-hmm.
have results, a big part of it is reporting and communicating that science. And again, the big thing in forensic science is that we're talking to jurors, we're talking to judges, we're talking to lawyers, people who do not come from a scientific background. So you really need to
Right.
be able to relate that very technical information to these people so they can make a good
Yes.
decision about, sometimes it's innocence or guilt. Sometimes it's about who is at fault, for something failing. and you really need to be able to relate that information well so that people could have the accurate and reliable information to make the best decision.
Absolutely. I think we're really seeing people in STEM, whether it's first responders, people in medicine, virology, microbiology, even engineers, at the forefront in today's society. We really understand that those in the STEM fields really kind of make the world go around from a base level. We
Indeed.
could be in policy and practice. We could be in traditional hardcore science. We could be in the
Right.
applied sciences. We could be in law, right? And you mentioned something again, communication leading to comprehension is so key. My ability as someone who is technical to be able to convey properly the denotation and connotation of whatever data I'm presenting to the quote unquote layman. What do I mean? You're not stupid, but you're not necessarily technical, but you have to make, like you said, major decisions, right?
Exactly.
So my ability to convey this information properly in the way that you need to understand it is key. Sometimes smart people like to talk over people. Oh, I'm so
Indeed.
smart. I use
Yeah.
these words and you are in awe of me, but I don't understand what you said. So how smart are you if you can't make the one who is not well versed in your particular area of expertise to understand what you're talking about, right? So, for example, we both tutor math, right?
Yeah.
I should be able to, you know, talk about the Pythagorean theorem to not only another person who's well versed in math, but also my son, my daughter, Joe Schmo off the street to make sure that
Right.
they can understand Pythagorean theorem and apply it
Yeah.
not only to homework, but apply it in their everyday life. And if I can't
Exactly.
do that, do I really understand? Right? So I love what you said about that. Being able to communicate properly is so key. And I find that a lot of times the stereotypical engineer or others, we have poor communication skills and definitely need to work on that. So thank you for that, bro. I want to take you back too, because I'm forgetting what the experiment actually was, but you mentioned an
Okay.
anecdote to me in our initial
Mm.
conversation, how a young person, maybe your niece or someone, brought a question to you, and she
Oh
wanted to
yes.
learn about. It was an experiment. What, you know what I'm talking about? What was it?
Yeah. Yeah. So
You know,
I was actually
you
in
were telling me a
contact with.
whole story, and you didn't know the answer initially, and then you went to go find
Yeah.
it. Do you remember what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. I remember. I remember. So I was actually in contact
I
with.
can't hear you. Hold on. Hmm. Oh, there you go. Hold on.
Yeah. You
Say
got me.
something.
You
Okay,
got me.
got you. Yeah. Mhm.
All right, man. So I was actually in
Yeah.
contact with a student. She was initially interested in forensic science and she wanted to do a high school project on that, but she had to change. So, really simple project that she ended up doing was looking at the solubility of potassium nitrate in water.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Talk us through that. Talk us through that because that was a great
yeah.
story.
So, she was asking me if I had any expertise in chemistry, and I'm like, well, I'm a chemist as well. So, you could
Right.
just ask me now, like she said that she did the experiment. She actually took water and had heating at different temperatures and was adding in the same mass of potassium nitrate each time, doing a little
Right.
bit of stirring, and then you would see, all right, how much dissolved, you would be able to dry off your water, and then you figure out, what's the mass of potassium nitrate that you have left. So you'll be able to, pretty much accurately determine the solubility of potassium
Right.
nitrate in water at different temperatures. So she
Right.
told me that, she pretty much done everything, but she couldn't explain why her curve was actually an exponential curve. So as temperature increased, the solubility increased, which I think was expected, but she didn't expect
Right.
it
But
to
at a
be an
curved
exponential
exponential rate.
relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, oh, well, I mean, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I have absolutely no idea
Right. Right.
why that would happen. So let me see if I could find an answer for you. I didn't tell her that I would find the answer. I just said,
Mhm.
let me see if I could find an answer for her. So I did all kinds of reading and I had to take it way back to first principles and look at solubility constants. Yeah. So equilibrium constants, really.
Right.
So whenever there's any reaction, any chemical reaction can be understood as an equilibrium.
Mhm.
Sometimes you favor the products, so most reactions go forward, as we would say, or sometimes you favor the reactants. So most reactions, they typically don't happen. But if you look at ice and water, it's a really good one. At 0 degrees
Right.
Celsius, ice and water is in an equilibrium. You always have the same volume of water, same
Right.
mass of ice. So that's a really good one. But if you go colder, for instance, you get more ice. So in this
Mm.
particular experiment, when I looked at the equilibrium constant for the solubility of potassium nitrate in water, it was actually favoring the products. Pretty much
Okay.
understood. That's
Right.
fine. But whenever you have equilibriums, there's also something called Le Chatelier's principle. And this
Yes.
basically says, the reason why when you have ice or when you have water and you freeze it at 0 degrees Celsius, you still have an equal volume of each. If you decrease that temperature and go down to, let's say, 10 degrees or negative 10 degrees Celsius, you'll have a lot more ice. Reason being
Right.
that Le Chatelier's principle would say that, because the reaction of water becoming ice is endothermic,
Yes.
then if you make it colder, you get more ice.
Right.
Basically,
Right.
equilibrium will swing to favor that condition. So the warmer
Absolutely.
it gets, the more potassium nitrate you would expect to dissolve, because the equilibrium will swing in order to favor the it would swing to favor the products, which is the
Yeah.
dissolved ions of potassium and nitrate.
Right.
So, I was like,
So
okay, that's pretty good, but that's not really why it's exponential. So I
right,
went
right. It's just
on.
showing you that it's going to dissolve more as the
Right,
temperature increases.
right,
But that exponential rate versus a constant rate, that's still
right.
bobbing around our
Yeah.
head, right?
So, so I went to look at, like all kinds of other stuff. I ended up looking at the Gibbs free energy and
Gives
thermodynamics.
free energy.
And I was
Hmm.
like, well, this reaction is actually going to be um, endothermic. It's going to use energy to break apart, the solid potassium
Right.
nitrate. I mean, there's not really much free energy would be available, but it turns out that you have to do a lot of calculus to get to this part. But
Okay.
for the standard Gibbs free energy for any equilibrium, it's going to be zero, because you would expect that the amount of energy that is available to form the products and the amount of energy that is available to form the reactants is always going to be equal. So it's going to be having both reactions at the same rate, backwards and forwards. However, at that point, you could also include the equilibrium constant. And if you do a lot of rearrangements in mathematics, you'll be able to see that the equilibrium constant is actually equal to the Gibbs free energy with an exponent, including the temperature as the only variable. So, I
Mm.
mean,
Well, that was for everyone listening. If you have trouble following that, I took thermo, I took chemistry,
it's
right?
rough.
I took 4 levels of calculus. I'm an engineer, and I had to use all of my mental fortitude to make sure I followed all that.
Yeah,
So, this, for the layman in layman's terms, give us the gist of the answer with regard to the exponential increased solubility of the potassium nitrate in the water for all of our
right.
listeners.
So, in very simple terms, what happens is that it takes energy to break solid potassium nitrate apart and make it
Right.
dissolve in water. There's a lot of energy available initially for both reactions to happen. You could have, well, let me not say that. All right, let me go to this then. The energy available to break apart solid potassium nitrate is coming from
Right.
the heat that you supply to the water. So that's one
Right.
reason why you're getting increased solubility. At the same
Right.
time, if the thermodynamics works such that the increase in temperature is an exponential increase on the solubility of the actual salt, potassium nitrate. So those
Right.
two things added together would actually give you a very, very much exponential, noticeable increase in the solubility as you increase temperature.
So I'm going to give people an example and let me know if this is a good parallel. So if
Mm,
I want to grow my business on social media, right? And I
right,
say, okay, I'm just going to post one video or picture daily in terms of promo, run an ad now and again. I may get a few more customers here and there, or a little bit more awareness here and there, day after day or week to week. But if I say I'm going to record 90 pieces of content, I'm going to comment on a bunch of different related pages, regarding what I do or sell or my service, and I'm going to post 9 things a day, go live, I'll see a catalytic or maybe an exponential increase in my customer sales. So what he's basically saying is temperature is an exponential catalyst in this reaction. That is the solubility or the dissolving of the potassium nitrate in water. I get that right?
That's right.
Awesome. So for everyone to understand, that's a good parallel to what we're talking about. A catalyst that just kind of sparks an explosive increase in the solubility rate as we increase temperature. Awesome. Thank you so much, bro. I love how when you tell that story, and I wanted you to tell that story because of how in the weeds you get, and I could tell you really enjoyed the research behind that project. So thank you so much for that, bro. So we're approaching the halfway point on the show, so I just want to take time to highlight the parent company of the STEM Files, Original Man Scientific. What is Original Man Scientific, you ask? So it is the parent company of the STEM Files, for which my bro Tariq Cardiac is the founder and chief operating officer, and I am the co-owner. I'm also the co-owner and director of engineering. So it is a science and technology company designed to deliver the advantages of research and development to your community, right? We have a kind of multi-sided way we do things with internal R&D, developing our own intellectual property, different products related to the life sciences, engineering sciences, etc. We also have our external services, which are different things like product design, development, prototyping, manufacturing. We also have a shipping container solution program called OMS Cubed, right? And lastly, in terms of really delivering just the thought process and the mentality around R&D, we have invention and innovation workshops that we'll be revamping and relaunching soon. That's going to teach people what it means to invent, what it means to innovate, and how to bring something into existence from the creativity that is in your mind. For more information on this awesome company and what we're striving to do, make sure to visit www.omansci.com, www.omansci.com, or follow us on all social media at OMANSCI_@omansci_. Look for everything that we're going to be doing in the near future, as we are definitely executing at a high level this year.
Vibes.
So,
good stuff.
I wish Tariq was on. He has something to take care of, but hopefully he'll be on soon. If not, we're going to finish off. We got to talk about this anime-ish, bro. We got to go there. So for those who don't know, I posted a little bit about it on social media. So me and Ciaran happen to be big-time anime fans, particularly of the shonen variety. For those who don't know, the shonen is like the, mainstream combat type adventure fantasy, anime. You're talking about your Dragon Ball Z, your Naruto, your Death Note, and to a sense your fairy tales, your things like that. So, how long have you been into anime/manga, bro? Kind of what was your entry, your gateway anime, and kind of where are you at now?
Well, I mean, like everybody else, I was a DBZ fan.
Oh yes, sir.
I thought DBZ was so epic when I was growing up. I mean, Toonami, Cartoon Network, that really broke my
right
ribs.
after school. Don't let me not have homework on Friday night. I'm going right to Toonami.
Telling you, I mean, when I look back on it now, I can't believe that Toonami on cable TV was really breaking barriers, making a whole international transition, taking a very Japanese show and bringing it to the American public. Well, I wasn't even in the US at that point. I was living on tickets when I first got into anime. But I mean, after DBZ, pretty much wasn't watching anything, was never into reading manga or anything like that. And then Naruto came around. I think that was around 2005, 2006. It was actually on Toonami as well, and I was like, I loved Naruto. That very first season of Naruto, I was really taken up by the main character.
Listen, OG Naruto, bro.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I like Shippuden. I do. I'm not gonna hate on Shippuden, but OG Naruto and the Sasuke retrieval arc.
Oh, epic!
Listen. The Sasuke retrieval arc, next to the Chunin exams, that is the best arc in Naruto, bro. Because it was a coming of age thing. I think, when you, as a young man, a young person identifying, you talk about these genin for everybody real quick. That's just like your first level ninja, your young person, you probably a 10, 11 or whatever. Now going on a mission, bro, like man, that's my favorite art.
Yeah, definitely. Like for me, like I love the fact that Naruto would be like, I'm gonna do it my way because I just
Right,
want to. Like he didn't
right,
have all the skills. Like this man was one of the weakest ever. you
right,
know,
right, right,
but mentally he had the real strength, and like that's what
right.
connected to me. I was
Absolutely.
really into Naruto, and then I started
Mm,
watching Bleach. I still think that Bleach manga, best drawn anime, best drawn manga I've ever seen personally. I love the
mm,
art that is in Bleach. Kubo Tight, I'm a big fan of that guy. You know,
mm.
and then I started watching all these other older stuff that my older cousin actually he used to watch a lot of this. So one of my older favorites is one called Elfen Lied. I'm not sure I'm saying it right, but Elfenlied. You know, it's a crazy, crazy,
Okay. I think I've heard of it. I
gory
haven't seen
story.
it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Mm.
really
So
sad story. You know?
I gotta ask you. I gotta ask you. So I guess several years ago, it was widely held that the Shonen Big Three, right, was your Dragon Ball Z, your Naruto, and your One Piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you looking at today with some of the newer shonen anime and things continuing, what would be your new shonen big three based on like current culture, what you watch, and also what you feel like people are saying?
Man, like that's a good question. I'm really behind on all the current stuff right now, but
Right, right,
I
right.
realized people were talking a lot about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure,
I
and
still gotta
JoJo's
watch that.
Bizarre. Well, I don't, like it was recommended to me a few years ago, and I never really
Uh-huh.
got into it. I watched a few
Right.
episodes, and I was like, "Nah, this is not, this is not for me." But I realized it was on Netflix, so I've been watching. I've been trying to watch it truthfully.
Okay.
It's not a fave of mine, but I realize
I
that
feel
it's
you.
getting a lot of hype right now. So that's definitely
Mm.
on there. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I think you'll never get away from One Piece being up there, because it's just stood the test of time. It keeps
It
bringing
has.
people
It's my
back.
favorite. It's like I told you
Yeah,
before. It's my favorite.
yeah. You'll never get away from One Piece being, it definitely has to be on the list. There's a lot of
Hmm.
new stuff right now, but SNK or AOT, people are going crazy over that. I've never watched it myself, but Attack on
Oh
Titan,
man,
I
people are
mean
going
that's next.
stupid.
That's next for me.
People are going stupid over Attack on
Yeah.
Titan. Yes,
Hmm.
I got to catch up with Attack on Titan as we segue back to the science. I know like people came for the science, but it's a reason why we segue here, bro. Attack on Titan did the whole culture dirty because Attack on Titan originally came out. I was in college still, right? And this is back
Mm,
2014. So like a lot of the guys I used to dance with on my crew, we all loved. We played
okay.
the games online. We would
Mm,
have watch parties for it, and then they took like a year or plus hiatus. So my
whoa.
love for it kind of waned, and now it's
Yeah.
back. So I got to get back into it. But Attack on
True.
Titan is super gory, great story, great development. Like if you haven't watched it, I would watch it because
Yeah.
Attack on Titan is like a must see, bro. A must see.
That's a next for
So
me. I haven't watched it, but definitely
yes,
it's next on the list.
absolutely, man. So
Yeah.
now that we've geeked out a little bit, why did we bring this up? One of the things I think for me, like you said, when you talk about having the intellectual mind, the critical thinking mind, and you mentioned something too, like mentality, right? A lot of these anime protagonists, they show an ability to, well, initially outside of fights, right? They tend to be they eat a lot, right? They tend to be kind of on the
Yeah.
dimmer side, if you will,
Right.
right?
Right.
And kind of regular. But what they kind of transform into highly intellectual, people in a fight, whether you're talking
Hmm.
about Goku, Naruto, Luffy, or whatever. As a scientist, right, as someone who's in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, your ability to look into something, look into a problem, and draw out a creative solution that
Hmm.
can now it not only stays with you because you're duty bound to society. So you take this
Exactly.
unique solution and then you apply it through specific, pathways to society for the benefit of the whole, right?
Hmm.
That kind of I feel like is a very nice parallel between kind of how you turn it on in an anime, right? So, speak to that. Speak to the need for STEM professionals to constantly be innovative, and what does that mean for you, maybe in forensic science, particularly when it comes to being a CSI, and even as a whole.
I think one of the big lessons from anime, like any anime I could think of, is there's always going to be a set of old people who are really, really good at the job,
Mm-hmm.
exceptional. They already had all the accolades and everything, and they're probably going to be very good at figuring out whether a process is going to work or not, without
Right.
any need for any explanation whatsoever. But if somebody determined comes along, like you could change everything. Like you could literally change the whole paradigm of how people understand anything. And that is like key in shonen anime. And I think that is key in this world today. Definitely for us scientists. Like there's a constant need for innovation. Things can always level up. I mean, I see guys right now like Idris Sandu. I see him creating
You're
things
a
that,
monster, bro.
yeah, I see him creating things that I never thought I would see. Like this is
Right.
real life, and this guy's putting on glasses, and he's showing you like holograms pop up in midair. Like this is real life today. We have that technology right now, and he's doing that. So like, there's
Mm-hmm.
always gonna be somebody, who, if you are determined enough, you could change the entire paradigm. You could actually make things that existed in science fiction, science reality right now. And like you just
Mm-hmm.
need to keep that mindset that like I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna get it done. Working on my research project. Let me mention that again, because I
Right.
mean I'm really proud of the work that I did, but like I said, I don't know if it's gonna be important, coming on to the future. But it was definitely something at the time that everybody was like, that just cannot be done. You can't take a material that everybody manufactures. Like think about plastic bottles. You can't take a Coke plastic bottle and a Sprite plastic bottle and then determine like well, these actually came from Coke or Sprite without looking at the label. Like everybody said it cannot be done, and I was like, but there has to be some interaction between the product, the factory, the people that do the mixing, the packaging, something
Right.
that we could
Right.
find, some
Mm-hmm.
trace that could identify this thing for us, and it worked out for me in the end.
Right.
But like I'm saying, like, that's something that somebody else could probably pick up and really make big, like you never know, you never know.
Right.
So we need to
Yo,
keep that mindset.
yes. I'm glad you said mindset again, because going back to Idris, right? So one of my goals is to get Idris on the show, because
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the STEM Success Summit, man, he was just talking big facts, just in terms of like source code and just
right.
really being. He talked about collaboration and
Mm-hmm.
how when he approaches companies, entities, whether it's Facebook, Microsoft, whatever, I'm trying to collaborate. Why is that important?
Right.
See, we as Black people, a lot of times we have suffered historically for
Mm-hmm.
people stealing our IP and marketing it as
Exactly.
theirs, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we think about this country and this world, right, really the major invention, if you will, is the patent process to
Mm-hmm.
take credit for things, right? So you talk about going through the transatlantic slave trade and during those times having to be genius to come up with things not only for ourselves but even for others, right? Quote, things we take for granted like the traffic light. Do we understand how crazy society would be without ways to modulate traffic?
Man,
Ways to dispose of trash, heat our homes,
indeed.
right? Cool off in the summertime. So when
Mm-hmm.
you talked about mindset, one of the things Idris was talking about, I forget what book or what person it's from, but he mentioned how he talked about nations in terms of technologies and tiers and your ability to
Mm-hmm.
harness certain aspects. Okay, you can harness the power of your community or your planet, harness the power of your sun, harness the power of different things. And it's like still got me thinking like, you know, being in STEM, if more than to me any other field, should keep you humble.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Because when you're in a STEM field, you should immediately know that you don't know everything.
Yeah,
You don't even know
definitely.
close to everything, right?
Right, right.
You know, there's a saying, I think in the Quran, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it talks about, our wisdom basically sitting on the head of having room on the head of a pin. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? When it comes to, the wisdom of Allah. And I might be
of
mixing something up
course.
here and there, but the gist of it
Mm,
is that, when I engage in any amount of research, any amount of study, I'm like, I get overwhelmed sometimes, but I'm like overjoyed because like I'm going to live a very wonderful life because I'm never going to get bored with the ever expanding essence that is the universe. Because something new is always coming out, right? So
so
man,
true.
that when he was talking, I was just really gathering that. I'm like, yo, I got work to do because I'm trying to be a master, right? But to
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
master, you have to be a student. So I do want to talk to you about humility because you have a very, very, to me, gentle yet vibrant spirit, right? You're really easygoing, easy to talk to. And I think when it comes to conveying scientific principles of information, it goes over well. Can you speak to how the importance of being humble when it comes to knowledge and interacting with others and how that's been a benefit to you in your interactions?
Well, that's another good question because it turns out that I was not always humble.
Talk about it. Hey, listen, go ahead. Yes, sir.
So, I mentioned this a few times when I talk to people, but when I went to grad school, when I was doing my master's of forensic science, like I had a chip on my shoulder. I was, one of two black guys in this
Right.
program. We had about 20, 24, I think, people in our master's program. And I was coming from the smallest island. I also came from an undergraduate school that was relatively unknown. I
Mm,
wanted to show people, like, listen, like, I'm worth this opportunity. So I
right.
was one of those people that was a big time show off. Like, I was one of those guys that, like, I asked the hard questions that I didn't know the answer to, and I asked the hard questions that I didn't know the answer to. I
Right.
was always
Right.
all about that. But over time, that really wore down on me personally. Like, when you're really trying to be somebody who's always right, somebody who always has the knowledge, you're not giving yourself any time to really breathe and just like let it all sink in, and like go through the process. That was really hurting me. It was like, on one hand, I'm thinking, like, yeah, I got all this knowledge, yeah, I'm ready, I got all these skills, but the processes were really wearing thin on me, specifically when, like, I would apply for scholarships and not get them. Like, that was
Mm,
crushing to me. you know
mm,
like, I would apply for internships, not get them. Like, that was something that would, like, set me back like weeks.
right.
you know
Right.
and
Who are
so
you to not give me a scholarship? Right.
it's
Or
really
internship.
important to be humble and recognize that there's a lot of things that you do not control, and that in
Yes.
itself should tell you that you can't possibly be that smart. You can't possibly be that influential, because you just can't control everything. Like, there's
Mm,
other people out there who, just as worthy as you are. There's no reason why you need to compete with them, and you don't have anything to
right.
prove to anybody. Like,
Right.
when I really
But yourself.
started to watch
Hmm.
yourself, and when
Right.
I really started to settle down and realize that, like, man, I'm just here, doing my thing to really be good at it. Like, everything to me went easier. It was a much more, much smoother transition going through processes. I was able to
Right.
do my research project still. I had to stay at VCU to actually do it. But, I enjoyed that. It was a really good process for me. I think it was the best job I ever had, being a full-time research scientist over the summer at VCU. And then I was able to get my research. I was able to get invited to present at different conferences. I had great presentations. I was able to make connections with people just by being somebody who could communicate well. Could stand up and speak about the science and get people interested and get people to ask me questions. And give them nice answers. Accurate and
Right.
reliable information. And I discovered that's what I really enjoyed most about the whole process, is that interaction, where I was able to give people something new that they would learn from, and that they could go back somewhere else and be like, listen, boss, like, this whole process that we're doing, the quality isn't that good, like, there's a
Right.
better way to do it. Keyvan told me about this, let's give that a try. So I think
Right.
humility played a big part in me being able to realize what I enjoyed most about the science, and it also helped me to, understand challenges, be able to
Yep.
deal with them better.
Right. I want to get to a couple things. I want to talk about tutoring again,
Mm,
because we vibed on that. But I want to talk about
yeah.
something else. One of the things that I'm seeing in terms of trending and big in providing huge areas and room to work out in as it pertains to uh, new fields or work and positions is data, right? Small data, big data.
Mm,
And, it's really becoming, apparent to me that information either has always been or is definitely now the medium of exchange. People thirst for information
yeah.
in a number of arenas. And if you can find your niche in being an expert or a thought leader, that's the term thrown around a lot right now, in a particular area and provide information in a accurate, relatable and succinct way, you really have power in today's day and age, right? The ability to, let people know certain things and then leverage what you know for what someone else knows, right? I also want to talk about comparisons. I have this, small whiteboard at my desk at work. Haven't been at my desk at work in a while, but it talked about comparisons, and it basically said comparisons in of themselves are not good. Basically, but if you must compare to the you of yesterday, right?
Mm,
And strive to be better. You know, I am striving to always remember that everything I do, the only person's uh approval that I'm looking for is Allah,
right.
most
Yeah.
high, supreme intelligence, whatever it is you say.
Hmm.
As long as I am acting within his will and doing things that are, uh, consistent or congruent with my way of life as a Muslim, that makes me happy, right?
Of
And
course. You
typically
should.
in my track record of life, it has made real ones happy as well. Those who
Mm,
have stayed around and have said whatever they said, glowing about me, that all comes from my foundation. So I'm finding that that's the anchor, that's the foundation that I stand on in this society that is so overly occupied with what others think about them, right?
right.
It's hard to be successful when you're always trying to be, held in high regard by any and
Oh,
everybody,
trust me.
but people like to be liked, like to be wanted, right? So it's hard,
Hmm.
right? You know, um, but I want to talk to you about math tutoring again, right? One of the things I was articulating to you is how passionate I get when tutoring sometimes, particularly with young black boys and girls, because I want
Yeah.
them to get it. Why do I want them
Hmm.
to get it, right? Math outside of the numbers and variables, equations, expressions, etc., is a training tool to indoctrinate and bathe the brain in critical thinking and problem solving, right? And
Certainly.
in the world, you'll be presented obstacles and challenges to meet and overcome. And it is
Hmm.
imperative, you particularly as a young black man and young black woman, that you do not get discouraged by challenges. And you know
Exactly.
how to look at something, dissect it, look at your skill set, upskill if need be, and come over that obstacle to move forward. So can you
Right.
talk about, some of your moments of excitement or just why it is that you tutor and what you get out of it, when you tutor?
Well, I wasn't good at math either. So, like,
Right.
I would like to say I'm one of those people that I was never good at anything that I do now, but I do things so well because of the fact that I had a lot of help back when I was younger and in a weak position. And I would say to anybody that mathematics is such a critical skill to have. I think it's an amazing life skill, and I think it's something that in our cultures is we don't recognize how much we use it. We don't recognize how much of the universe and how much of the divine plan unfolds mathematically. And why I want to tutor, really, I want to tutor people who they haven't recognized it yet, but then going through this work, going through these problems, learning these expressions and equations, you start to realize like the universe really is a very interesting place. And I
Mm,
want to really bring that to people because I had that moment as well myself. And I mean, it's really difficult though. I think mathematics is tricky for a lot of people. It's troublesome for a lot of people, so nobody should feel bad that you're not You don't have it all down right now, but definitely with help, you know, if you really study mathematics, just like you said, it's a great toolbox to have, you know, in order to broaden out and transition into looking at problem solving, creative thinking. I mean, it's the foundation, without a doubt.
Foundation. That's a great word. So as we're landing the plane, believe it or not, it's been 50 minutes. As we
Yeah,
land the plane and get to the end of the show, watching from Belize. Thank you, sir. Or ma'am, not sure
respect,
exactly.
respect.
All right. Okay. Shouts
Yeah,
out from
so
Belize. All
yeah,
right. You know you know who that is?
yeah. I say.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. Okay. Way to tap in and push in for the homie. Um, oh man, I lost my train of thought. Hold on. Oh, okay. Sure Science Consulting, right? You have this business you've been consulting. You know, where are you now, and where do you see your business kind of moving forward in the next year plus with regard to the consulting you do?
All right, so right now I'm in Toronto, Canada. Been living here
Yes,
since
sir.
August 2019. And, I
Hmm.
really revamped Shore Science Consulting because I recognized that I was always doing consulting, but, I didn't really have, a little nice box to say, like, yeah, this is where I operate from. So I really wanted, Shore Science Consulting to be, something that people could be like, like, yeah, definitely we'll get accurate and reliable information from this guy right here. So right now
Hmm.
where I'm at is, I'm trying to do a variety of different things. Right now I'm working with a company up here, the Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum. I was doing some writing based on writing short little stories for middle schoolers about, inventors from diverse cultural backgrounds. And hopefully we'll have a
Mm.
book coming out soon from the publishing arm of the Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum, writing
Yes,
about some
sir.
Black inventors from Canada, which I really hope,
Mm.
is going to be a big impact on the community. Other than that, I want to really get into speaking, so this month is going to be a big month for me. Um, my university, Virginia Commonwealth University, they actually invited me to do a panel. So I did that on Thursday. And then on Friday, to the Canadian Multicultural Inventors Museum, I was able to talk to a group of school students about Black Canadian inventors again for Black History Month. Today I'm here, on the STEM files. I really want to be able to get out there as a consultant,
Right.
somebody who could communicate science with people and let people know, this is the way. You got to evaluate your sources, but once you have scientific information that is accurate and reliable, it is so meaningful for you because you need to make important decisions every day. Am I gonna drive today? Am I gonna take the bus today? Like,
Right.
am I gonna really stay home or should I, order my groceries on Amazon? Like all
Hey.
these things,
Listen.
all these things we're doing right now is on the
Right.
basis of science. So I
Right.
really want to be
Right.
that guy. If in the next year, what I would really, really love to be doing is to be working with bigger companies that want to, answer those important, complex questions, particularly around justice, around efficiency, and around profitability. Because I find that a lot of big scientific companies and non-scientific companies too, they're looking at things like, are we really doing enough in terms of representation for underrepresented people, particularly Black people working in our companies? You need somebody who would understand data, to be able to give you some
Right.
good information about that. Maybe your hiring processes, maybe where you're advertising the jobs, it's not that good. You're not reaching to the audience that is
Right. Talk
underrepresented.
about that. Right.
So that's a matter of justice right there in terms of efficiency. We look at a lot of quality management. When I was a forensic laboratory manager, it was all about trying to run the process. I wasn't trying to manage people, in particular. I was trying to manage the process so that, you as a newbie could come into my lab, learn the process, and just get going. Like that was
Yes.
my thing,
Right. Have
you
a
know.
process you can tap in a system. Yes. Talk about it.
Exactly, and then when we talk
Hmm.
about matters of profitability, everybody wants to
Mm.
hear about that. You don't want to really be spending your money the wrong way. And I always bring up that example because I was talking to another company about this. Like if you're printing things, one of the best things that you could do is actually get somebody who is good in discrete mathematics because they'll be able to tell you, are you efficiently using the ink product? to put it on any kind of medium. And how is that medium really helping your business? Because there's a lot of things, people feel like, yeah, I'm gonna print this document and I'm gonna send it to this person. It might not be that efficient,
Right.
especially based on the price of ink, the price of printing, the price of gas, to
Right.
transport these things around. If you think about it from a mathematical standpoint, then man, you realize how inefficient these things can be and how much of an impact it's having on the bottom line. So that would really be, my big picture dream as a scientific consultant, to really go to that length right there.
Love it, man. Thank you so much, bro. Listen, in our last 5 minutes, first of all, I want to thank you for being on the show. Like I said, your spirit, everything about you, bro, is dope. Like I personally wish, like you're like my type of friend. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're easygoing. You love anime, so already like we
For
got something
sure,
to talk
for
about.
sure.
So definitely, like, this is definitely a start, well, continuation of a friendship. As we get to know one another. Definitely looking to
Right.
work with you in regards to Original Man Scientific, some of the things that we have in the works. Because we definitely need that right and accurate information as we're innovating, as we're inventing, as we're
Yeah.
striving to deliver R&D to the community. So we're definitely going to be looking to do that. I want to engage you in the STEM file speed round. So, end of every show, we ask a series of different questions, and your goal is to just answer it the best you can, and we're going to try to have it be quick so that people can get a bit more understanding about who you are outside of the sciences. Okay? You ready?
All right.
All right. So I'm going to ask you not too many questions, but the last 4 minutes or so. All right. First thing you do when you wake up in the morning.
Check my phone.
Hey, check your phone. Okay. Professional research or volunteer work?
Professional research.
Professional research. I like it. Walking or jogging?
I walk, man. I can't do jogging.
Okay. Okay. 3 things you cannot live without.
Cannot live without, you know what I mean? Well, you can't live without water. I like drinking a lot of water.
Not scientifically though. Just like your personal thing. Like
Okay,
I can't live
okay.
without. You know.
Let me see. Well, I can't live without the Associated Press. I check that app a lot of a lot. I do a lot of
Okay.
reading of the news. I can't live without. I like anime. Hey, I can't live without it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what else. What else? Well, I like to eat too, so
Hey, yes,
I
sir.
can't. I
Okay.
can't live
Food,
without
anime,
skipping dishes.
food, anime, your information. I love it. All right.
Yeah,
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Apple. I ask that question all the time because me and Tariq have a disagreement. He's an Android
Really?
guy. I'm an Apple guy. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Okay. Little known fact about yourself.
Well, I'm from the Caribbean, but I don't like fruits.
You don't like fruit?
No, I don't.
Dude, wait, hold on. Uh, you
Yeah,
ain't gotta be from the Caribbean, but you don't like any fruit?
I
Oh,
don't. I don't.
dude, that's great. That's wild, bro. That's wild. Fruit is that. We gonna keep it going. We gonna keep it going. What scientist would you meet from the past and why?
From the past, I really like Tesla. And I like Tesla
Tesla.
because I feel like he was that guy who just had that determination to do amazing things. And I feel like the only reason he didn't get to is, similar to a lot of underrepresented scientists, is because there was somebody, who was part of the dominant race, who was really working to just suppress his ideas, totally unfairly. So
Okay.
Nikola Tesla.
Now this next question is based on if you've watched certain anime. You've watched Death Note, right?
Yes, yes,
Have you watched Code Geass?
I have actually, yes.
Okay. Better protagonist, Light Yagami or Lelouch Lamperouge?
Light, I mean, Light would
Over
own
Lelouch?
anybody. Own
Oh
anybody. He
man.
would own anybody. You know,
Oh
Lelouch,
man. Okay.
skillful guy, skillful guy. Chess game between those two.
Mm,
Stalemate
I like to see
probably.
it. I like to see it.
Yeah.
All right. Better redemption story, Zuko from Avatar or Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z?
Zuko. It was the more complete story. He really went
Zuko has
full
the
circle.
greatest origin story
Yeah,
I've ever seen.
yeah, he really.
That's the greatest one.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. If you weren't a forensic scientist and or CSI, what would you be?
I think I would be a modern physicist, probably experimental physicist, because looking at particle physics, like back when they discovered the Higgs boson, I was so
Mm,
excited. I was like, these guys at CERN sit down and look at data all day, do these complex calculations up to 3 sigma. I was like, that is me.
mm, nice. Last question. My name is Ciaran Phillip, and I am.
I'm trying not to give you the stereotypical answer. Let me
Just
see.
take your time. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Ciaran Phillip, and I am a great talker, and I love speaking to people, and I love giving them accurate and reliable information.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With that, family, this has been another great, awesome edition of the STEM Files. I have thoroughly enjoyed everything. Brilliant engineer, typically joined by Tariq Cardiac, blessed with the presence of Ciaran Phillip. Bro, we
Thanks for
definitely will be
having me.
talking. Yes, sir. Of course, of course. And last but not least, where can people reach you for questions, consulting, just kind of tapping in with your story? Where can they reach you at?
Yeah, definitely. You could always email showscienceconsulting@gmail.com. You could also check
Hmm.
me out on Instagram, trying to build up my profile there, RAS
Yes, sir.
underscore science on Instagram. Um, on Facebook, Ciaran Phillip. On LinkedIn, Ciaran Phillip. I have a good following on LinkedIn. Definitely
Yes,
like
sir.
to reach out and connect with all the Black STEM professionals, all the STEM
You definitely
professionals.
lit on LinkedIn.
You
You are lit on
know,
LinkedIn. You are lit on
yeah,
LinkedIn.
yeah, man. I'm trying to get connected. I'm really trying to build that network. And I
Yes,
really
sir.
want to see, us as a community come together because there's so many great connections. Like Chantel, you know, went to UPenn
Listen,
and UVA.
it's crazy. The
Yeah,
UBI UPenn connection, bro. Like it's a small
yeah,
world. That's dope. She's
yeah,
a dope person too. She's really cool.
yeah.
She's really cool.
Vibes, man. So
All right,
I'm
bro.
really thankful for you guys for bringing me on the show. I really like the work that Oman Sai is doing. Last night, just to add a quick note, I was watching Cutthroat City on Netflix. I think that you should watch that. Really decent film. They were
Okay.
talking about the lower ninth ward in New Orleans. It was really bad before Katrina, so you could
Right.
understand after Katrina. But if Oman
Hmm.
Sai could bring research lab connections to the ninth ward or the lower ninth ward in New Orleans, I think that would be a big thing. The black community could really step up and see
Yes,
something new. So
that
these
is
are the things that we're
exactly
interested in doing.
that
You
is
know,
exactly the type of work we're looking to do. We want to have a presence pretty much in all the major cities. Obviously, starting where we live and reside and where our people are.
exactly.
We think that what is innovative and never really seen is you can walk down the street in your quote unquote hood and look and see, yo, it's R&D right here in my neighborhood. I can come in with an idea and it can be worked on, and I can get a marketable set of skills and an actual invention or innovation that I can then utilize for not only society but myself and my family. That's what it's all
For
about. So
sure.
thank you for that, bro. And I'm definitely going to tap in with that. But family, until next time, Tariq Cardiac, right? Jabrilian engineer, our brother Ciaran. All
Yes,
right. Make sure to
science.
tap in on Instagram at the STEM Files for all upcoming shows and content going forward. Love y'all, family.